Welcome back to Pause to Unedit Yourself, a podcast where reflection meets transformation, where we explore the art of becoming one intentional pause at a time. I'm your host, Anushka, and each episode offers you a chance to press pause and explore bite sized insights and soulful reflections from my own journey of introspection in the hope it will help you too on your path of personal evolution. Whether you're feeling stuck, seeking clarity, or simply wanting to expand, my hope is that this becomes a space of inspiration and deep remembering, guiding you to evolve from within and uncover the infinite potential that lives inside each and every one of you. Your time is valuable, it's the most precious commodity. So, thank you once again for being here and sharing this space with me. And thank you for pressing pause and choosing to journey inward and daring to become the highest expression of yourselves. Today, I wanted to deep dive into a topic which I kind of touched upon at the start of the season. It's something that quite a few of you have reached out to explore a bit more, and it's something that I've actually been exploring a lot more as well. As you do, because you're growing, you're evolving, and it's good to look at things from different perspectives. Because sometimes when we hear the message in a certain way, it might not resonate until it's actually framed or explained in a different way. Something might come across for you. So, I think a lot of us have kind of reached a moment in our lives where everything that once defined you, it no longer feels like you. It could be that job, the roles that you've been playing, the relationships that you've built your whole life around, and even that identity that you once was so certain about, and something then starts to shift. What once really felt stable now starts to feel really unfamiliar. What once felt aligned, it now feels like it doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to an older version of yourself. And in that space between who you were and who you are becoming, there's this deeper question that begins to surface. And it's something that I've keep asking myself. If I'm no longer who I used to be, then who am I now? And with that, even more importantly, what am I actually here to do in this lifetime? And for many people, this is the critical moment and the beginning of awakening, because awakening rarely starts with clarity. It most often starts with shedding of what no longer serves you. It's, all of the old identities that will start to dissolve. Parts that once made sense, it starts to feel misaligned. Certain relationships start to shift or fall away. And while this process can feel disorientating, what I've come to understand, and it's taken me a while, that it is also a very deep, sacred process. Because somewhere within that space of uncertainty, there is this question that quietly begins to surface. And that is, what is my purpose? So, what do we actually mean by purpose? Before we can actually answer that question, I think we need to pause and ask something deeper. What do we actually mean when we say purpose? Because is purpose something that we are meant to find somewhere out in the world? Or is it something we are meant to remember within ourselves? You see, most of us, we grow up believing that purpose is this single destination. It is this specific career. It is this clearly defined path, a role that somehow explains why we are here. The more that I've kind of sat with this, I've come to realize that all of this defined path has just been something that has programmed over what is actually our truth. And if we reframe that purpose is not something that we manufacture or construct, but what if purpose is something that is more natural than that? It's more innate than that we have forgotten. What if purpose is simply the authentic expression of who you already are? Not something you have to add to yourself, but something that you have to uncover. Because the journey of becoming, this journey of transformation, it's not about adding more layers, more achievements, more titles, more validation. No, it's deeper than that. It is about peeling back the layers of everything you were told you should be. And that's the hard part because it's removing your whole identity until what remains is something more honest, something more alive, and something that feels like you. So, what is your life trying to show you? And recently I came across this idea that started to change the way I think about purpose. And it's pretty simple. And the idea is this: to align with your true nature, you have to observe what is natural for you. And what is natural for you is revealed by your attention. And when I first read that, I had to pause because it didn't actually make any sense for me, to be honest. Raised an important question. It was like, well, what exactly is attention? And how is this different from the way most of us have been taught to focus our lives? Because you see, most of us grow up learning something called concentration. And there is a very big difference between concentration and attention. Concentration is the ability to focus effort towards a goal. Think about it. You are told you must concentrate and you must study harder. You must work harder. You must push yourself further. And it's a discipline, you get told you must focus on your studies, you must focus on your work. And it's something that comes from outside. It's a discipline that's imposed from the outside. And what concentration does is that it moves an energy in a very specific direction towards results, towards grades, towards recognition, towards money, towards achievement. And while concentration has its place in life, it's not the same thing as attention. Attention is something very different. Attention, what I've understood, is this curiosity that is effortless. It's this pull towards something that naturally interests you. And it doesn't require force, it doesn't require discipline. it just simply arises. It's almost like this magnetic pull inside of you, and it feels like it belongs to the heart. Oh, it's that part of you that notices, oh, this feels interesting. Ah, this feels alive. There is something here. And the more you begin observing your attention, the more clues you start to see about your nature. And this attention is this inner pull. And so if you look back across your life, you may notice there are certain themes that keep returning, topics that repeatedly capture your interest, ideas that fascinate you, questions you can't seem to stop exploring. Maybe it's psychology, maybe it's creativity, maybe it's helping people grow, maybe it's building something new, maybe it's using your hands to do something, maybe it's understanding that deeper meaning behind life itself. And even if you try to ignore it, it will keep pulling you back. And as I've explored this, I've explored that many traditions, um, across many traditions, this phenomena has been recognized for centuries. In Hindu philosophy, it's known as Svadharma, the path that aligns with your own nature, the subtle vibration of life expressing itself through you. And the psychologist Carl Jung described something very similar when he spoke about the idea of the future self trying to emerge in the present. Different traditions, different languages, but the same underlying insight. Life is always trying to unfold through you. And recently I've understood that it's actually your higher self that is guiding you on this journey, showing you. But you have to be open to receiving. You have to be open to seeing the signs. And so there's this paradox of purpose because when something interesting happens, when people begin listening to that inner pull, when they stop forcing themselves into identities that no longer fit, and instead they start exploring what genuinely gives them meaning, life really starts to respond in unexpected ways. This is where those synchronicities happen, the right conversations appear, opportunities begin showing up at surprising moments. People enter your life who mirror the direction you are moving in. And synchronicities appear and they increase. And slowly it starts to feel as if life itself is rearranging around you, as if the universe is quietly saying, ah, you've finally woken up. You're finally paying attention. And I can honestly, hand on heart, say that I've felt this, I've seen this, I've experienced this. And that's why I'm sharing this with you today. But there is something that interrupts that purpose. If our nature already knows the way, why do so many of us ignore it? Why do we abandon the things that naturally make us come alive? And the answer to that is really quite simple. It's fear. And most people judge their own curiosity and they label it as practical, it's unrealistic, or it's not serious enough, it's not profitable enough. And so they silence it. They silence that inner voice showing you the way. And they replace that curiosity with responsibility. saying, well, I have to pay the bills, I have to get a mortgage, I have to have a house, I have to have all of these. They replace the aliveness with security. And slowly, something inside of us, it begins to fade. And so there's this powerful idea that says most people don't die when they are buried. They die the moment they abandon the thing that makes them feel alive. Which brings us now to a really important question. What would happen if you trusted the intelligence of what naturally draws you? If you're thinking about it, human beings, we really rarely create our greatest work from safety. No, we create it from alignment, from truth, and from a place where we feel deeply connected to who we are. And when that alignment exists, something really powerful happens. And I've spoken about this. It's the energy, it flows differently. It flows effortlessly. I spoke about this in my last episode, and it was when everything is in alignment, it flows. You're not trying to climb uphill. Creativity opens up, and your resilience, it increases. Because when you're aligned with your true nature, the effort, it feels very different. So, how do we begin this journey of discovering our purpose? One interesting way of looking at this comes from a Japanese concept, which you might have come across, and it's called ikigai. And ikigai explores the intersection between four important forces: what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what can sustain you. And where those four forces overlap, purpose often begins to take shape. But discovering it is rarely a single decision. It's not something you sit down one day and figure it out perfectly. No, it's something that reveals itself through experimentation with life. And that's something that you have to be open to doing. You are here to experience life. And so it is about dropping that safety net, letting it go, and experiencing it, and having faith that you are fully supported in whatever you are choosing to do that is coming from your truth, from your true nature. And that voice, it will get louder and louder as you are creating more from that place, as you're moving more in that direction. There's this beautiful perspective that suggests life isn't something that we are meant to control completely, and to see life as its experiment, as in something we're meant to explore. And it's about shifting this perspective. What if your life wasn't a puzzle you had to solve, but more of an experience you were meant to participate in? When you invest your attention into the unknown with curiosity instead of control, something beautiful starts to happen. New ideas appear, opportunities start to arise, conversations, they lead in new directions, and life begins responding to your movement. Purpose doesn't appear through prediction and control, it really unfolds through participation. So, I want to take a moment and I want to invite you to pause and turn inward and ask yourself, what keeps pulling my attention lately? What parts of my life have I outgrown, but I'm still holding on to? Where do I feel misaligned with who I am becoming? What activities make me lose track of time? And perhaps the most importantly, what would I explore if I wasn't afraid of being wrong? You see, perhaps the deeper truth is this: purpose is not something you find once, it's something that reveals itself as you evolve. It grows as you grow. And often the first step is not knowing exactly where you are going, it's simply having the courage to follow the thread of what makes you come alive. And I love this quote by Rumi, who says, quote, "As you start to walk on the way appears." Unquote. And maybe that is the real invitation here. Not to force your purpose, not to control it, but to begin listening more carefully to what life is already showing you. And so maybe the question is no longer, what is my purpose? But something far simpler. What is life asking to move through me right now? As always, I use these episodes as reminders for myself, like mini guides that you can refer to whenever you need a check in with yourself for a moment of recalibration. So do feel free to save them, and please do share them with someone who might need to hear them. And please do share your comments and feedback too. It will help me to know what resonates for you and what you would like to hear more of. And if you want to connect in between the pauses, I do post on my Instagram at Press Pause Movement. There's a newsletter, Pause Perspective, you can subscribe to. And I also have curated playlists on Spotify for all your Press Pause moments. Everything is on the link in the description below. See you in the next episode.